Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that helps women enhance their well-being and reimagine their current stage of life as a time of strength and reconnection with themselves. Hello, and welcome to Episode 6. Thank you so much for joining me for this shortened Wellness Wednesday episode to keep your warrior vibe high. In Episode 5, we explored mindfulness, and I mentioned how much I loved mindfulness practices that connected me with the natural world and to others. As I was preparing to record that show, I remembered a story that I thought you'd enjoy. It's about a time I experienced a spontaneous connecting moment of mindfulness. Let me say up front that it includes sharing a bottle of wine with some friends, which may be an unusual example coming from a wellness professional. But you should also know that I'm half Italian and half Irish, so I grew up with food and drink as being celebratory. I have wonderful memories of very large, very loud family gatherings for as long as I can remember. So it's with that backdrop that I share this story. In January 2014, I attended a home-cooked dinner hosted by my new boss at the time, who auctioned off the seats around his dining room table for charity. When I walked into his Manhattan duplex, I knew a few people by name, but most by sight or not at all. We were basically a group of loosely acquainted colleagues. The dinner was wonderful, and when it came time for dessert, one of the guests asked the host to open a special bottle of wine that he had brought. It was a dessert wine that was a 1927 vintage, an 87-year-old wine back in 2014. I was so struck by the generosity of this individual to share such a special bottle of wine with work acquaintances. And I was really curious, what does 87-year-old wine taste like? As the bottle was ceremoniously opened and the contents allowed to breathe after decades of being in a bottle, I kept trying to picture what was happening when those grapes were growing in the south of France. My father would have been 5 years old, and my mom wouldn't be born for another year. As a nation, we were between world wars and 10 years past the 1918 flu pandemic. The roaring 20s were coming to an end, and the Great Depression on the horizon, unbeknownst to all. And what was the journey that took that bottle from Europe to America to our table 9 decades later? That's what I was thinking when we raised our glasses to observe its amber color before taking in its aroma of walnuts and caramel. We all sipped at the same time, holding that first small mouthful for a bit. And then we shared what we tasted. Vanilla bean, brown sugar, ginger were a few responses. As we settled into enjoying our dessert and wine, I asked the table of professional colleagues this question. If money were no object and you had full support of your family, what work would you choose to do? And so began a long exchange where everyone shared their dreams, not your typical corporate conversation. There were those who wanted to farm, to make wine, to lead travel excursions, to teach, to heal. And me? I said I wanted to be an author, which at that time was a dream. I share this story because when we think of being mindful, it can feel elusive. But this is a reminder that we can invite mindful moments into our everyday gatherings, whether personal or professional. In my experience, I haven't had anyone turn down or turn away from an invitation to authentically connect. That group of colleagues didn't set out to have a mindful meal. To the contrary, it had all the components of what could have been an antiseptic evening. But a little prompting, in this case, sharing a bottle of wine and inviting the conversation to deepen with a thoughtful question, and everyone spontaneously rose to the occasion. We, as a group, dropped into the present moment, we focused on our senses, and shared what we were experiencing. In doing so, we shared a moment as rare as the wine, never to be experienced again, but fully enjoyed by all. And recalling that connection still brings me great joy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you enjoyed this episode and found it of value, please hit subscribe and perhaps leave a review. That helps others find their way to our circle and ensures you'll never miss an episode. And if you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on the show, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.